Hello and welcome to the PC Perspective Podcast. We have reached episode 782. This is being recorded on July 17, 2024. I'm Sebastian Peak.
Still Jeremy Hallstrom.
Going to be Brett Van Sprumberg all night.
And I'm Kent Burgess.
On special assignment tonight, filling Josh's portion of the screen. Josh is golfing or something. He took the week off to do, I don't know, normie stuff. So whatever.
Weird. Like he's concentrating on weird three-dimensional off-screen objects this evening.
I'm in my basement and I'm very comfortable down here,
looking
alone
at comfortably positioned two-dimensional objects. I like that. It's fine.
Yeah. Musty boxes that just get more and more musty every day in this Michigan semi-climate controlled environment. So
they're just being aged.
So we'll have a modified food segment for you. We'll still touch on that aspect, but for now we're going to talk about Patreon, and we're going to thank some patrons, and I'm going to talk about some immediate plans to make Patreon a little bit better and brighter for everyone out there, because there's been a desire to have the live stream that you're watching right now, if you're watching live on Wednesday night at 10 p.m. Eastern, as soon as possible. So I'm going to make it a point of waking up on Thursday morning after, I pass out after doing this. I wake up in a daze in the morning. I realize what day it is. Oh, it's Thursday. Okay. Then I crawl to the computer and I'm going to put that live link on Patreon just for you.
You're feeding that pent up demand, desire even.
And I'm combating my own disorientation the morning after this experience.
It's almost heroic. It's nearly heroic.
If you saw the way I live, you would understand why I forget sometimes, because it's kind of chaotic and disordered. There's a young child involved. There's always all kinds of crazy projects going on around here. And I'm not making any more excuses. It's just going to happen. But let's thank the patrons, GOI Scamp. And we could say Goy Scamp. I think this name has come up before, and I couldn't pronounce it then.
It did. It's come up before. I'm in the habit of kind of mining some of our patrons that have been with us for quite some time and saying, hey, thanks for being here. Still appreciate it.
And then Husky, but each Husky is spelled slightly differently.
But you got to put more effort into it than that.
I could tell the way
Husky.
Yeah, you pronounced it differently.
And then oi.
Yes.
And Ash, but Ash with a lowercase s. It's capital A, lowercase s, capital H.
I think you're mispronouncing it. I think it's ass.
Okay. That could be.
And now we're minus one patron.
Yeah, we just got demonetized just now.
What? All right. The letters AS. I mean, come on.
Hey, letters are just letters. And words are just words. It's the meaning that you attribute to them. Okay? Stop. Don't be a snowflake.
It was love and adoration at someone who patronizes us.
Patronizes us. And now it's time for our Josh Food Substitute segment. It's unprecedented, almost, to have a segment like this. Who is this? Jeremy? Are you going to cover this?
Yeah, I was the one who sacrificed my belly to ingest some food that was of questionable, nutritional value. But having not known that Josh wasn't going to be here this week, it's
almost like the two of you conspired, because you've got the photo. I
hate taking photos of food, but
you did.
And all I did was say, hi, Josh. This is from Foy's. It's a Irish bar that's opened up relatively recently. And the thing about them is that they don't make their burgers big enough. Their barbecue burger is decent, and it's got some nice cheddar cheese on there and some barbecue sauce and a onion ring. But the burger isn't really even hockey puck size, so eat it and you're not quite satisfied. But for an extra couple of bucks, you can throw a whole heap of pulled pork on top of it.
Oh, okay.
And it now goes from something that doesn't satisfy you to something about I'm glad there's a hospital close by, because I think my stomach lining might actually be bursting inside of me and I need to seek medical help. But then a little gastric eruption and you feel better.
Is this a caramelized onion here, or is it just wet?
That would be caramelized onion that escaped from the pulled pork.
That looks good.
It is
Jeremy,
delicious, but far, far too much to eat.
I'm going to have to ask that you watch a couple of YouTube videos on how to photograph food more effectively.
No.
What's wrong? He was
Because
doing
I
it
hate
surreptitiously.
doing it.
He doesn't like to.
I only do it ironically.
Right.
Okay.
Like
The
I would
tweet
be
itself,
just
all
like,
it says is "Hi, Josh."
That does serve a purpose then.
I can only do it while pretending to be doing something on my phone, and like,
Right, because you don't want to be seen
I don't wanna
as
be
one of those
seen.
people.
yeah,
Oh, seen at all. Like, yeah.
really.
Well, that is my one
Glory.
complaint about toys is that there's literally no bacon on anything. But they're Irish, so what do you expect?
Without any delay, we're going to move directly into the reviews portion of this podcast because we teased it last week. Kent worked on this for a long time. You have a totally new test methodology. You have a little roundup here of coolers, and everybody loves roundup, so I know I do. So let's explore the 2024 CPU cooler test bonanza.
This review was a hell of my own making, but
Yes,
it's
I bet
over
it
now.
was.
It was
I don't think it is. I don't think it is over.
Yeah, we got to talk about it now.
Yeah.
Got to relive it.
yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, so this started last year. Be Quiet sampled me a Dark Rock Pro 5. And, when this got this and I started thinking about the review, I realized that, the review, the bench system that I had was really out of date. It was old architecture, an old IHS format. And, the way that manufacturers, both Intel and AMD, are really tuning their chips now, they're shooting for a temperature, and then they let the internal componentry sort of guide the wattage and the clocks based on the temperature, not just let it go until it throttles. And so I figured that there needed to be a way to measure what wattage that a cooler could effectively function on specific chips. Unfortunately, I don't have an AM5 system that I could use as a test bench. I only have the LGA 1700, but it worked, and I'm glad I didn't have another system because there was a lot of benchmark running in all of this. So what I came up with was first the idea of testing at two different noise levels, one which would be an acceptable quiet system, and another which is just with the fans at wide open to see, what the max capacity is of a particular cooler, and then testing at different wattage loads. So I tested at 100, 150, 250, and 275 watts. I used a blender render that takes 10 minutes to run. Well, depending on the wattage, at the minimum, it's a little over 10 minutes, but I would run it for 10 minutes. And then I would run the test 3 times, take an average of the temperature during the 3 runs, but I also took the peak temperature achieved in the total of the 3 runs. And that gives you not only an idea of the maximum cooling capacity, but also which coolers tend to run a little lower throughout the system, because you can see little spikes. And in the charts, you can see it. But I would notice during the testing that some of the coolers would be running at a lower temperature, but the peaks were very close to other coolers. And that's why I decided to do the averages as well. The sound was measured using a Dayton Audio calibrated measurement microphone at 20 centimeters away, so very close to an open test bench. So the test, the noise controlled method is 42 dB, but that is at a very close range on an open bench. From 3 feet away, you can't really hear any of these, even on an open bench at 42 dB. So after a lot of work and figuring out how to actually do all this and make it happen, then came a lot of running of a Blender render.
Do you want to walk us?
All of the data.
Do you want to walk us through the coolers that were on test? I know you mentioned the Be Quiet, and then
so
of course there's some thermal, right?
I wanted to. So in deciding this, I wanted to not just test one cooler and have nothing to compare it against. So I wanted to get a decent starting point for this.
I see you went downdraft on a couple of them as well, I think, right?
Well, just one. And that one I chose simply because it was last generation Be Quiet. It was the final cooler they came out with in their last iteration. And I had reviewed it a couple of years ago, and I just wanted to see how it sort of stacked up.
No, I get it. Stacked.
Falls.
I get it.
Because it's like a sandwich. Yeah.
Yeah.
But so, I wanted to test it against, as Sebastian said, everybody's going to ask, well, what about the Peerless Assassin? So,
correct.
Peerless Assassin,
that's the
RGB.
Only thing, the only question you would have gotten, and it's the only feedback you would have gotten if you hadn't included one. So,
I also got the new version, which is the Spirit Evo 120, which right after I got it, I started seeing reviews coming out, and I was trying to avoid them because I was, trying to, go in sort of blind to what numbers should be. I just wanted to use the numbers that I found, not wonder if they were right, but, use the methodology I came up with and do everything as accurately as I could. And then we got the Peerless Assassin 120 Mini, which is a dual tower, but it's only got an overall height of around 135 millimeters. So it fits in cases and situations where these others will not.
Same,
especially the Be Quiet.
Same number of pipes, looks like.
No, it's got the same number of pipes as the Peerless Assassin, which is 6 millimeter heat pipes. Both the Dark Rock Pro 5 and the Phantom Spirit Evo have 7 6 millimeter heat pipes, and the Be Quiet TF2, Dark Rock TF2 also has 6, but it's not really a true dual tower. It's got one single large heat fin array and then a smaller heat fin array at the bottom. But anyway, so those were the coolers that I had. I felt like that could give me 5 coolers, could give me a good starting point for this database that I would be building going forward. And I probably going forward won't test like your larger coolers. I probably won't test those at 100 watts or even 150.
They were just too efficient. It just didn't.
Yeah, but I wanted to get that data point in there for testing lower profile coolers, things of that nature. Mm-hmm. So that's where we ended up. And yeah, so that's where the testing went, and it took a long time.
Of course.
But it was, I feel like what I got was really good data. There's a lot of data to it.
Can we explore the data together now?
Absolutely.
Yes, let's.
Absolutely.
I liked how, and you had sent over the spreadsheets. Like, there's no better way to present this than the spreadsheets, especially as you'll see in a moment, because it gets really dense. You don't want to try to make busy charts.
Yes.
So you have the fan speed at 42 RPM or 42. You have the fan speed at 42 dB.
Mm-hmm.
So you can see that there's a variance there.
And then the fan speed at 100%, or what the actual RPM is at 100% fan speed, but also how many dB it is at 100%.
Yeah. That's interesting that the Assassin 120 Mini, it only has the one 120 millimeter fan, obviously, so it's not too surprising that it would be that quiet. It does make it more impressive that a dual fan, or wait, is the Dark Rock TF2 single or dual fan? I think it's dual fan, right?
It's a dual fan, yes.
And it's only 47.5, but it's lower.
Yeah,
RPM.
the downdraft
But
one,
they
I was
only
surprised
spin-
to see dual fan on that one. So, yeah.
Yeah. They only spin, they're rated for 1400 RPM on that one. At 100%, I was seeing 1385 on my AquaSuite fan controller that I was using to control all of the fans.
Okay. So for those listening, if we walk them through, the Dark Rock Pro 5 was about 1700 RPM at 100%. Now that one has a switch on it. Was that with the switch set to high?
That was with the switch set to high. But even at 100%, this only was about 50 dB.
Yeah.
It was much quieter at 100% than either of the other two full-size dual tower coolers.
Yeah. Can you read more numbers to listeners of the podcast so that they feel included?
I can read a lot. I can read some
busy
more
charts.
numbers.
Let's read every line. No, let's not. Go to PCPer.com.
Let's not.
Let's go to PCPer.com.
Go to PCPer.com.
And read Kent's Cooler Review Roundup. It's the 2024 Cooler Madness, or what is it called? 2024.
Kent, 1 minute mad moment. Which one's your favorite and why?
Hold on. That's giving too much away. Let's drag this out even further. It's the Cooler Test Bonanza. Search 2024 Cooler Test Bonanza PCPer on your smartphone right now. We'll wait. Unless you're driving. Then pull over and then search it up.
It just might take longer if you're driving.
Just tell, hey, Google, search PCPer 2024 Cooler Test Bonanza and read me what you find. And then you'll hear the voice saying, Kent Burgess writes on PCPer.com, the microphone is placed 20 centimeters from the 10-minute blender render.
Oh, this is going so badly.
Are we ready to cut to the 1 minute madness moment?
No.
Okay.
All right.
All right.
Kent,
keep going.
Walk us through your findings with these coolers. And what do you think is the best? What's the sweet spot?
Okay, so limiting to 42 dB, all three of the full-size coolers, the Dark Rock Pro 5, the Peerless Assassin full-size, because there's a mini as well now, and the Phantom Spirit 120 Evo, all could cool, they could maintain 250 watts of cooling with not much trouble, actually. They could not complete the 275 watt tests at 42 dB. And at 42 dB, the Dark Rock Pro 5 actually was the best performer. One of the reasons for that is that when you look at the fan speed chart, so the Dark Rock Pro 5 has two different fan sizes, a 135 millimeter in the center and a 120 at the front. And they've got this proprietary connector between the two that you then plug into a standard 4-pin PWM fan header. You don't actually see the RPM of the front fan. You only see the RPM of the middle fan. So you either have to measure it with a light or basically estimate it, which is what I did. I don't have the tools to get the accurate RPM off that front fan. But that fan at 42 dB is spinning probably around 1300 RPMs. So it's moving a lot more air than the other coolers were at 42 dB. The Dark Rock Pro 5 outperformed everything else at 42 dB. No question. When you get to the max capabilities of the systems, though, setting the fans at 100%, things changed up a little bit. Both of the thermal rights caught up to, and in the case of the Phantom Spirit Evo, surpassed the Dark Rock Pro 5. Not by a lot. Actually, their peak temperatures were almost identical at every data point, but the average temperatures on the Phantom Spirit Evo were up to 2 degrees lower than the Dark Rock Pro 5. So it was able to hold the temperature at a more constantly at a lower level, but it would peak to about the same point at certain sections of the benchmarking. And this is right now about a $43 cooler, I think, compared to the $90.
It's stupidly affordable for what it is.
Yeah. And then,
spoiler
of course,
alert.
Then of course, as Sebastian mentioned, the Peerless Assassin 120 full size, it's about $35, and it was third between those three coolers, but it was not far behind. All three of those coolers managed at 100% to be able to fully complete the 275 watt load tests. You couldn't say that about the two smaller coolers. In much the same way, at the 42 dB, the Dark Rock TF2 outperformed the Peerless Assassin Mini. But when you let them go full speed fans, the Peerless Assassin Mini outperformed the Dark Rock TF2. And that's because Be Quiet really handicapped that cooler with the fan speed. They will only go up to, like I said, about 1400 RPM, which is barely over what they ran at 42 dB. Also, the other thing I noticed with that cooler is, and it probably would not be an issue in a case where there's an exhaust fan pulling it away, but I had a lot of heat buildup right around the motherboard area from the TF2. And that's because, it's blowing it down. There's no exhaust fan because it's an open test bench. And so nothing's moving that hot air away. But yeah, the Peerless Assassin 120 Mini was actually really impressive. It wasn't loud at 100%, and it was still, it just barely managed to complete the 250 watt test. But this is a cooler that's 135 watt or 135 millimeters tall, and to be able to handle 250 watts is really impressive.
Yeah, and I'd like to point out that if you're not on an Intel platform, 250 is the most you're ever going to really pull from an AMD processor these days. So somewhere in between those 200 and 250 watt numbers are where you can kind of estimate what your performance would be like from an AMD platform. And obviously it's different IHS design and stuff from AMD, but you're never going to be in that 275 area that, you see almost immediate 100 degrees in throttling from a lot of these coolers, unless they have 100% fans going into that load, and then some of them still can't complete the test. So,
and then of course there's some, not performance oriented thoughts on these. The fit and finish, everything about the Dark Rock Pro 5, you pick it up and you go, this is something that is really well engineered, really well thought out, and really well built. It just feels and looks every bit of high quality. The Peerless Assassin, the full size, which is actually an older cooler than the Mini, actually it kind of feels a little cheapish, especially the fans. Now, that might be because those are the RGB fans, but they were kind of noisy. The fans just felt a little, not horribly cheap, like, some of the old, I can't even remember what they were called, but they were super cheap, popular fans about 10 years ago.
Scythe?
Well, some of the old scythes were very popular and pretty cheaply made too, but these are, they're probably mid-grade fans.
It's
but they were
$35 for the whole cooler.
Well, again,
It's
I'm just
gonna feel
giving
a
some.
little. Yeah.
Yeah.
From my experience, because I have one. I have just a plain one that has black fans, but it feels a little cheaply made. I was skeptical when I took it out of the box, and then I hooked it up. I'm like, okay, yeah, it mates really, really securely, and you get its nice flat surface that they've milled for the bottoms of these, and it's amazing what they're doing for the price. It's like, are they even making
absolutely.
money off of this, selling it from $35 on Amazon?
Both the Phantom Spirit 120 Evo and the Peerless Assassin Mini both came out earlier this year at about the same time. They both feel higher quality than the older, the full-size Peerless Assassin. And the fans on both of those are much higher quality than the ones on that full-size Peerless Assassin as well. Again, none of them match the Be Quiet. Either of the Be Quiets are just immaculate German engineered, designed, and well-built pieces of equipment.
Natürlich.
But when you look at the performance, the Thermalright Phantom Spirit 120 Evo is just astounding. It beat the Dark Rock Pro 5 at 100% fan speed, which means it has, better overall cooling. It does it at a higher noise level, but it's 3 dB. So while it is noticeable, it's not that much louder to human hearing. Even though it's technically a doubling of sound pressure level, we don't perceive a doubling of sound pressure until about 10 dB. But, and the quality and build of the Phantom Spirit was a step up from the Peerless Assassin. And while it doesn't match that on the Be Quiet, it's not far behind. That cooler was super impressive. The fans on it are really well built. They're heavy. The frame is really rigid.
At this price,
they have a really tasteful lighting implementation. It's got lighting if you want it, but it's not RGB. It's not blowing your face out. It's fantastic. I really like the appearance of this cooler. I mean, the performance was just outstanding at $43.
Yes. Right now,
as I said in the review, and when it came out, it was about $39.
Yeah.
So they've raised the price. And as my summary of this whole thing was, don't wait, go get it before the price goes up again.
Now, does the presence on the market of the all-new Noctua NHD 15G2 change the equation at all? Like, I mean, obviously this is a lot more expensive, and you're probably even more expensive than the Dark Rock Pro 5.
This is
I think it's $150.
Yeah,
What?
it's frustratingly
Okay. I thought these were like
expensive.
119. Okay, all right.
No,
no.
Whoa.
Okay. They've taken it
It's
into
better.
places.
It does cool better, but not 3 times the price better. Like, I don't understand what Nokia is doing with this. It's like, yes, you've got brand recognition. I love what Brown can do for me, but I am not shelling out $150 for maybe 4 or 5 degrees Celsius when I can spend $35-40. I don't get it.
Since I haven't received one of these for review, I actually went and looked at some reviews of this cooler. Tech Power Up did a review, and it was barely better. It was better, but not by much, than the Phantom Spirit Evo.
And it can beat out some of the all-in-ones, again, it's more expensive than those.
Yes.
I don't understand at all.
Yeah, the market will decide the pricing. That's for sure.
But it would be
and the
nice
thing
to
is
put this in
I
your
feel
lineup,
like
Kent. It'd be nice to get the G2 in your lineup.
Yeah, we don't pay him enough.
Hey,
Yeah,
Nocto, if you're watching, go ahead and send Kent one of those coolers.
And honestly,
Contact
I mean,
us.
that's one of the reasons why I went through this. It's not just to do this this article, but to set up a new way of doing it for us, so that we now have a baseline, and we've got a number of data points, but we can now incorporate new reviews going forward into that.
Yeah. It was a lot of
and have
work.
good comparisons.
And it's speaking from experience of having spun up so many new test beds and all the work that goes into creating new data points just to get to the cooler that you want to review. It's a lot of work. Well, I think we need to move on from this review because,
I agree.
we've been recording for 45 minutes.
It's been the sword of Damocles to me for months.
But the worst part is you're just building a database that you're going to build upon.
Yeah.
So you have to
the
change
pain
everything.
that is going to
But
keep
then
coming.
Until
the thing
you're-
is,
Go ahead.
but the thing is, going forward, I only have to do one cooler at a time.
Until you have to
Right.
change your test
Change
methodology
again.
because your
Yep.
Intel-powered test bed becomes so unstable, you can't
it's
even
gonna
use it
happen.
anymore, which is going to transition us directly into news, as the PCPer News Desk is going to cover more of the Intel 13th and 14th Gen instability reports. From PC Gamer, Dino survival game developer is switching all its servers to AMD, which experience 100 times fewer crashes compared to Intel because it's, quote, only a matter of time before affected CPUs fail, end quote.
This is Game Studio. This is Alderaan Games. I think this name and their sort of background story has cropped up a lot in relation to the Intel situation that's been evolving here. And they're saying some not very complimentary things about not only the server side, but the users, the people actually trying to play some of their games. They're saying the same situation because they've got metrics and stats that they gather from their client side, and they're seeing stability issues for the exact same reasons. They're noting that if you're on an Intel 13th or 14th gen, especially K series CPUs, instability issues that really don't necessarily align with the thermal frequency issues that we kind of think it is. And here's the reason: because it's affecting their server side. Server boards are extremely conservative because stability on the server side is king. They don't do a lot of crazy stuff for server boards. They're seeing very similar instability from Intel chips in the server space, and that does not bode well. Now, initially, Alderaan Games said that they saw fairly good, obviously, good performance from 13th and 14th gen server-side components, but over time, they're seeing degradation.
Are they using desktop K chips on server side?
That's a good question.
And are there any, you're mentioning
perhaps.
server boards. Are there even any server boards for unlocked Intel desktop processors on the market at all?
You could
Good
call
question.
any motherboard a server board if you're brave enough.
Kent,
I
you're
suppose
muted.
that's true.
Oh, sorry. The W680 boards, you can, and according to Wendell's video on this,
Okay.
there were 13,900. Although I don't know if they were K SKUs or not. I don't recall if he specifically said 900 Ks.
I think a lot of people are
most of the issues are with
recycling
the K series
information from other sources, and
True.
the
Yes.
source that we were quoting initially was Falcon Northwest, because they do a lot of system validation testing. They don't just send out systems after they build them. They do burn-in testing, and they had their own thoughts about Intel instability and the fix for it. And then before Intel even issued any kind of a patch, they were directing their users to, change certain settings and do not allow your processor to run in this completely unbridled state. And then Intel patched a bug that they, here from this article again, quote, they were talking to Tom's Hardware, quote, is not the root cause, end quote, of the stability, but is, quote, potentially contributing to instability, end quote. So it was...
But there were chips that didn't even have ETVB, that's thermal velocity boost, enabled on them that are seeing similar degradation over time and instability problems.
Seems to be endemic to the actual architecture.
Yeah.
They have been on the same process node for a long time.
It's tired.
And this is, they're obviously switching over to TSMC with the next generation, but this is still Intel's own, fabs producing what at this point is a very mature node, but they pushed it, when they pushed it to 5 gigahertz all core, initially, I thought that's probably as high as ever really going to be able to push this. Now they have pushed things to 6 gigahertz and beyond on the same architecture, same process technology, obviously. It just seemed very problematic. And now we're seeing issues. And if Intel themselves are patching things, as in they're sending down a directive to the motherboard manufacturers that they have to have this Intel baseline performance standard, all that's doing is limiting current and probably being more conservative with voltage, actually, but also limiting wattage to the defined, like the actual specified 253 watts or whatever it is, depending on whether you have an extreme profile or not. But
they could be packaging a microcode update with that, whatever is going in with the BIOS as well.
But if it's physical, if it's a physical issue with it being run too close to the ragged edge, like I've heard the term ring bus thrown around a lot.
Yeah,
you've had memory controller brought up a lot. People are trying to figure it out on their own because Intel's not exactly being forthcoming with details about this, other than use our baseline settings. Don't push your K series unlocked chip too far.
Think about that for a minute. Why did I pay for that again? But is this potentially a deadly mingling of an architectural design target that they're hitting and, dare I say, the process in which it was built, because they're seeing degradation over time. And that's simply, that's a breakdown at a very low level that could indicate like almost atomic level hardware problems.
It's almost like it's a breakdown at 10 nanometer level.
Electron migration.
That's what I'm saying. Electron migration and voltage leakage.
So Buildzoid did a very long video on this. And he has a theory about it. He was showing, because it doesn't matter whether you're on a workstation board or a non-overclocking board or a Z690 or 790 board, each processor, based on their silicon quality, is going to do, depending on frequency, they're going to do voltage calls. They're going to draw a specific amount of voltage that the microcode is determined is necessary for stability, whether they're overclocked or not. And most of your average, say 13900K processors, to hit 6 gigahertz, they're pulling between 1.45 up to 1.5 and in excess of that, doing voltage calls for that much.
I've seen 1.7 on voltage calls. Some of this is specific to it's like the Silicon Lottery. Some of the chips don't need that much. But when I was trying to test, I think it was a 13900K with my own CPU, like cooler testing recently, it was shocking to me to look at what it was actually asking for. It wasn't getting it. It was asking for insane voltage in its completely unlimited default state with the motherboard I was using. And it's just like, this is not stable. And for, when they're brand new out of the box, the ones I've used have been fine, but I don't run them 24 hours a day either. I don't have any of these unlocked 13th or 14th gen processors
in a
You'd
be mad.
You know, I'm one of those weird
Mad.
people who does a lot of writing on like a laptop and stuff. Like I'm not using my desktop 24 hours a day.
So you're not doing it on the phone anymore?
I don't write articles on the phone anymore, no.
Good.
One of the things that Bill Zoid was talking about was you weren't seeing it on 600 processors. 12,600, 13,600, 14,600. You weren't seeing it on those because the worst examples of those do voltage calls that are less than the best examples of the 900 series.
Yes.
His theory is that this voltage is because the thing is the ring sees that same voltage. His theory is that this excessive voltage is causing degradations in the ring bus. That could also explain why, like, I have not had a single issue with stability on my 13900KS. Now I'm overclocked, but I apparently have a very good sample because my voltage is 1.41 and under
That's
full
what I was
load,
wondering.
like under Cinebench, the V droop is like 1.37, I think.
Yeah.
So, and I have, like I said, I have not had these stability issues. And please do not take that as me saying they don't exist. I'm not saying that. I'm saying I have not experienced them. My voltage is much lower than what a lot of people are, what a lot of people's voltage calls are calling for stock. And honestly, at stock, mine did not call, my motherboard was not feeding much more than I have now. So like I said, I obviously have a pretty good piece of silicon. But I know that, like, I saw an overclocking video with JJ of Asus, and he was talking about, like, at low load, he would just rather let the CPU and the motherboard just feed whatever voltage because he didn't feel that it was an issue. And he was showing this CPU that was calling for 1.5 something volts. He's like, it's not under load like this, so it's not really hurting anything. But
Sure.
Yeah.
But
So-
the unfortunate punchline of this is that over time, and the statistics are sort of bearing this out, 100% failure rate.
Yeah.
100%.
Well,
That's
according to
a-
one game developer, yes, that was
According to this game developer, they're
Alderon
seeing 100%.
Studios. Alderon
What
games.
games do they make?
I don't know.
It's some
Path
dino
of
game I'd never
Light.
heard of before.
Path of Titans, a multiplayer dinosaur survival game. So I
So
There's
it's a
servers.
100%
Spoiler
failure
alert, the
rate
meteor
on a
gets you in the
game that
end.
has what? How many PC players?
dozens.
Don't know.
That's not the point. The point is it makes a really good headline, but there have been other reports of instability that I don't have to worry about Alderon games. But
Yeah,
no,
plenty of
I
this
agree.
this is really bad for Intel desktop for enthusiasts. I don't think average people are following this story. If they're going out and buying a pre-built gaming PC, maybe. But I feel like those are the
They
people
don't know what
just,
generation they have, for one thing.
right. They're just watching like the hyped up influencer videos and getting excited about Brand X and whatever. At least Falcon Northwest, and I would hope anybody else who's more conscientious about the build and like burn-in and validation process, they're being very upfront with customers about this.
Yeah.
There is an instability issue. Here are mitigating settings for it, but it's not like they're saying they're 100% fixed by our systems with total impunity. This is what Intel is providing right now. And
But did you know there's another company that you could buy from?
that's interesting that you bring that up. I think Advanced Micro Devices out of Sunnyvale, California.
Yeah.
They have an
they might be
x86 You're right. They have an x86 license from Intel. They're able to
Yes.
legally manufacture x86. In fact, I think they actually developed their own, what is it, x86 64?
64, as it were.
Yeah, 64
They're out
bit.
of date. Like, it's not like
Well,
they're making new ones now.
They're
or
not making
anything, right?
ARM processors, no. So of course they're out of date. But
You could skip to topic 4 and just get it out of your system.
yeah, let's just talk about it right now.
Let's do it.
It's the Linux patch to disable the Snapdragon X Elite GPU by default story
Because
at
Intel are
Phoronix.
elitist.
So, yeah, get excited about Snapdragon X Elite. And remember, there was going to be native support for Linux. I talked about that.
Except
Very
not
exciting.
really.
No.
Well, they didn't tell you how good the native support would be, just that it was native. Natively disabled, that is.
Yeah, Qualcomm,
You-
disable GPU on X1E80100 by default.
Jeremy, you're slicing the hot dog with a table saw too finely.
Yeah, well, I keep running into saw blades.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very
frustrating.
interesting. It's very interesting that Microsoft and Qualcomm have a partnership. We don't know when it's going to expire, but I think that if you want ARM, you want all that exciting battery life that's become the only selling point, then you have to use Windows 11.
Because Linux made it look too good performance-wise, and that can't be allowed.
And it's very real. If you looked at, we talked about this in a previous show, looked at the expectation versus reality. Here's what Qualcomm was
Yes.
showing us. Fine print
Yes.
in the disclosures, they were using custom Linux. Then you
Tuned,
get it
custom tuned.
in reviewers' hands running Windows, and the results are not as impressive. It's like, where's my single thread Geekbench score? Why is it so much lower? Where's my multi-thread? It's because you have now the overhead of Microsoft basically, recording everything that you do at all times and running
That's
a
for your own
million
benefit.
processes in the background. Not
for
really,
your own
but it's
benefit.
a lot. And I know there are Microsoft fans, and that's
Are
fine.
there?
Yes,
There are.
there are. To wrap up this Phoronix story, we're speculating that this could be the result of the Microsoft-Qualcomm partnership, which I don't think is disclosed as to when that is going to end. So any of these Snapdragon X Elite SoC laptops are going to be shipping with Windows 11 on them because that's the way it's supposed to be. And if you try to install Linux, the latest kernel is going to disable the GPU. I think we beat that topic into the ground, and I guess it's time to move to another topic, maybe one that we know more about.
Nah.
Like, well, I don't know. Let's delve back into the world of rumor,
Quantum
speculation,
physics.
and leaks.
Yes, leaks, rumors.
Here's a story via WCCF Tech. I'm not sure what their source is yet, but PSU manufacturer Seasonic has listed several unreleased GPUs. Now, this is interesting. I thought this was going to be a story about the 9000 series, Ryzen stuff,
Nope.
but no. This is Radeon RX 7990 XTX.
Yeah, little half step 7000 series GPUs.
In the past, the 990s were dual GPU, weren't they? Like was it a 69?
Oh, like this
90?
6990. Yeah, 6990.
Something like that. So they were listed by Seasonic within its wattage calculator webpage, where at least 4 new models were mentioned. So remember, RDNA 4, that's pushed back.
These feel like RDNA 3.5s.
Like
they
the
potentially-
refresh where they were going to
Yes.
get that, whatever the issue was, it was holding back the 7900 XTX.
Maybe they're doing bus architecture tuning here, the memory tweaks. I think there's an opportunity here to
Yeah, not
pull
every
something
game.
out of the.
Do you think there's any validity to this? Are you
Yeah.
expecting these
I
GPUs
do.
to actually be released?
I
Yep.
do. I don't think that
Really?
they pulled these out of thin air. I think
Okay.
that
And I
this was
expect us
something
all
that.
to be disappointed.
Yeah, I think they'll probably not be much of a bump, but I think they will have tried. They'll put some extra tweaks in there. Maybe it won't be 3.5. Yeah, I think they'll just be incremental.
Okay. Well, speaking
Did
of
you usually do a
Seasonic
refresh? Yep, go ahead.
leaks, there's a related story. This is from Tom's Hardware about RTX 50 series graphics cards, TDPs, also leaked by Seasonic. So we've got
Thanks, Seasonic.
yeah. This is the this
Well, that's because they're
data.
hoping to buy. You'll buy the old dedicated Seasonic NVIDIA GPU PSU, which is an add-in to your computer, which needs a separate power plug, but powers your
I just want the
GPU
GPUs to have their own power plug on them, so you can
That's
directly
what I'm
plug them
saying.
into the wall.
We didn't really make it clear as to why this is like coming from Seasonic. Seasonic has a website where they host a PSU power calculator. So
Yeah.
they allow you to configure your system, to inform the computer, the what you've got in your system. And their pull down menus have unreleased hardware in them. And that's where some of this leaking is coming from.
So a 5090 is listed there as a 500 watt TDP GPU. So that's obviously 50 watts higher than the 4090. The 5080 is listed at 350 watts, which is 30 watts ahead of the 4080. Pretty incremental increases here until you get down to the 5060, which goes from 115 watts with the 4060 to 170 watts with the 5060, which leads me to believe that the
This doesn't seem like
5060
speculation.
will be a
It doesn't seem like
legitimate
speculation.
gaming GPU and not what was something of a debacle when the 4060 launched, and it was really the 4050 Ti, but it was called the 4060, and
the 60 series seemed a little
maybe
weak.
they'll slam the door on that chapter and just say, no, we're just slam the
Or
door
it's
on that
just a
chapter. I don't know what
blockade.
that means.
Close the book on that door.
Close the book on that door. And yeah,
I knew what you were saying.
They'll turn the page on the whole 4060, kerfuffle.
They'll turn the page on that channel.
Mm-hmm.
Close the door right in the book's
That
face.
train had sailed.
Exactly.
Let's make it like a tree and split.
Next news story. Goodbye YYHX updates. Hello Windows checkpoint.
Well, I mean, if you thought that, Windows 11 22H2 was very informative as to what the patch you actually just received was, well, don't worry. Microsoft is going to make it even more obscure because they're going to start doing checkpoint cumulative updates as opposed to cumulative updates based on the year and quarter they thought they'd release it, not necessarily the one that they actually did release it in. If you go to the current insider preview, you can check this out. But it sounds like a little bit of good, which is it's going to save on bandwidth because it's going to look at what patches you have on your PC at the time and only download the changes. So it's not going to download the entire patch. It's going to download the bits that it needs to replace. And this should, save on bandwidth, which, of course, we're all paying gobs of money for by data already. Okay, so that doesn't make any sense. But
yeah, this isn't Canada.
No, it's not even in Canada anymore. It's like, I'm sorry, you've got a 50 gigabyte cap on your month. What? Sorry. Did you say it should move to a new ISP? Yeah, that's what I heard. But it'll mean that it takes less time for Windows to count up to 100% when you theoretically reboot after that update has been nagging you for 6 months and are bitching about why your computer is not working properly. But no, I don't want to reboot. It takes forever to get to 100%. Okay, well, now it'll be quicker. On the other hand, it's going to obfuscate what patch got applied to it even more. And I have this really odd question about, so if this is a checkpoint and it's like, okay, so these are the patch levels you have, these are the bits that you should get. What if one of those updates didn't go perfectly well? And so now what you've got is cumulative update errors until your OS just bites the dust because it thinks, oh yeah, no, that flag says it's totally been installed. It ain't. And we're just going to install this bit. Okay, we missed a bit of that. And. Do you really need to screw with this even further, Windows? Windows Update has gotten progressively worse over the years, and do you really need to up your game and make it even more ridiculous just to shave that 20 seconds off of a reboot that your users aren't going to do anyways because they don't like to reboot?
Jeremy, that there are teams in the corporate world within each of these large companies that are sitting around going like, we need to do something to justify
our existence. Yep.
Exactly. We need to change something in order to justify the money we're going to receive this year and next year. And they do stuff like this.
Great.
Yep.
Very
Finally,
quickly.
Yeah, very quickly, this thing from Proof News, whose existence I was not aware of until now, says that you can search the YouTube videos that are secretly powering generative AI.
The story
this
here is, of
tool that
course,
they made.
is that many AI quote unquote vendors, like Apple, for instance, have mined many, many YouTube videos in the educational space in order to provide fodder to train their AIs. But we're going to go out right now. I've used their tool that Proof is talking about. I just want to state unequivocally, no PCPer podcast was used to train any AI.
Which I find
That's-
insulting.
Yes.
I would say that most of the time what we say on here is definitive.
Yeah.
It's informative.
That is ridiculous. How dare you exclude us from being turned into a pawn of your corporate AI?
Are you complaining about that? Let's
Wait, I'm
Double
conflicted
check.
here.
double check your thought process. I'm upset that I wasn't taken advantage of.
I wasn't exploited, damn it.
Oh boy.
I wasn't-
Boy, wasn't I? I thought I looked pretty good.
Is it
They
good
didn't
enough for
pick
you?
on me. I feel insulted. All right. Let's move immediately to Insecurity Corner.
Welcome to Insecurity Corner, your weekly reason to drink.
Our top story. AT&T ruins Friday for many customers. Now this is just another data breach. We see these every day.
Okay.
I mean, what's the big deal? So all your data was
100 million
compromised. Get used to
customers
it.
is not bad, right? That's not too bad, and collecting it for the better part of 4 or 6 months or so. The one of the nastier ones is that not only did the stolen data include the phone numbers of AT&T customers, but also the phone numbers of anyone who called an AT&T customer. Really, there wasn't a lot of stuff that came out, like no billing information, no real personalized information. But on the other hand, they've got all of the calls that you actually spend a lot of time talking to, which is a great way of figuring out a phone number to phone you from or text you from, saying that you're desperately in need of, some assistance. And the fact that, hey, AT&T released other providers' phone numbers is probably going to cause a little bit of fallout.
Yeah,
It's going to be upset.
Jeremy, as you well know, there's a cottage industry out there of scammers faking relatives in trouble, where a person will get a call and they'll say, hey, this person, they're in jail or they're in the hospital or something's been happening. I'm a lawyer, I'm a doctor, I'm representing, a relative of the target. Send money. And unfortunately, it's successful. So this is fodder for that scheme, undoubtedly.
I heard of one this week that I hadn't heard before, which was an older gentleman who had been scammed before, was now being scammed by a group saying they were with the FBI and they wanted his help to catch the scammers. And they were asking him to take money out so that they could track it. Yeah. It's just
No.
the scum of the planet, these people.
The FBI.
No, these scammers.
Oh, okay.
One
Sorry,
of my personal things are people taking advantage of the helpless. That just,
But they're just sitting there waiting to be taken advantage of.
It's a courtesy call from the IRS.
It's the low-hanging fruit, Kent. Mm-hmm. And, if you're an unscrupulous person, why would you waste your time on people who have any...
I know.
I don't know how to describe it.
Defense against your scamming.
There's a certain generation of people who are not tech savvy. I'm not saying that the generation that means... The age does not mean everything. There's a certain generation of people who also aren't very tech savvy. Tell me about the kind of cars
they drive. How do they
drive a Buick Encore with a 1.2 cylinder. Yeah, 1.2 liter. No, we're not going down that road again. Next, Blooping Computer has a story on Netgear warning users to patch auth bypass XSS router flaws.
Holy crap. these are like Soho home routers. It's like, this is like hits right where people live. So if you've got a Netgear router, Nighthawk, very, very popular, Wi-Fi 6, you're going to want to look at this. This is a serious situation. Update your router's firmware immediately, because there is a auth traversal bug that is allowing people to gain high-level admin access to your router, and then they can pretty much own you after that. This is such a freaking sad story. Week after week. It's you know what? It's tiring talking about these as well. You know what? People tell us all the time about how sad they get hearing them. It's tired of talking about them too.
And the bad part is I've been so pleased, because in all of these stories, it's like Netgear was the one that was just never brought up. And I'm like, I look at my Nighthawk, and I'm just like, yes.
Oh, you have one.
Yes, and
you have one.
Yep.
Is it an AX6? It's
no.
Popular, so okay.
Yeah, update it anyways.
I'm going to probably as soon as
you've got an XR 1000 Nighthawk gaming router or an AX6 or something like that. Just for God's sakes, go look. We don't need any more drive-by shootings on the internet.
Our next story, Jeremy, I appreciate this artwork. I love this episode of Futurama.
I know I shouldn't have put it up, but I needed to.
Oh, you should. Well, yeah, we're gonna get some takedown emails about it, but anyway,
yeah, probably.
But
Rite
as we
Aid
mentioned in the last story, I am just sick of every day. Geez, what should I make for the lead story? Oh, look, it's yet another frickin' breach.
It's so hot right now. I don't know why. We are even surprised by this, of course. And it's interesting. It's so interesting. The coincidence between Rite Aid getting breached, negotiations breaking down because they didn't have the money to pay the hacking group, and then suddenly Rite Aid declaring bankruptcy because they know they're going to be sued into oblivion.
True.
Well, this is like their fourth or fifth major breach.
Yeah.
Not to mention the whole unsuccessful defense against the opioid crisis lawsuit, which they
Jeremy,
should have
this goes back to 2015 in breaching Rite Aid.
But this, I think there is no quicker way to upset people to the point where they would become litigious than by saying that all of your data and all of your prescription data is now just out there, tied to your ID. We lost it all. Yeah. Sorry.
That ID is a government-issued
ID. Name, address, date of birth, whatever government ID you use to buy your prescriptions, they've got it.
Anyway.
I think it is CVS.
Rite Aid is already being sued due to other breaches that have happened. This is just opening them up for more litigation.
Well, they're bankrupt. They can't afford to pay.
I mean, what are you going to do?
I hope that their bankruptcy...
And they don't have access to their own databases to be able to. So.
Yeah, I hope that the judge tosses out their bankruptcy bid and they have to pay everybody all of the money they have left.
I occasionally catch a little noise, around the family homestead with, why don't you just give me your information? What does it matter? I'm like, I don't give an inch if I don't have to. I even give fake names. Don't even spell my last name. Different. I
don't know anyone who can spell your last name.
Exactly.
Yeah,
and that's a security measure. I was born with it.
North Carolina, and I'm certain that other states are doing this, have started this health information exchange website where instead of previously as a healthcare provider, if I have a client that I need to see records from a previous place they have gone, I get them to fill out a release of information specifically for that place, and I fax it or email it to that facility to get those records, and vice versa if they need anything like that. North Carolina has started this health information exchange, which is all of these medical facilities are signing up for it, and so they're just putting the records there. And the bad part is that if you go to a doctor or mental health provider, they will ask you, well, here's when you first go, they will ask you to sign a release for the health information exchange so they can just go there and get this. So basically, if you sign this, all of your healthcare information will go to a centralized, easy to access, one-stop hacker shopping service.
Well, I mean, it's handy that the doctors can access it, but I bet you the doctors can't even access it as well as the hackers can.
No, it's the doctors can't. Well, they can if they know how, but they always ask me. So, but so when I've been asked, it's come to me to ask the clients to sign it. My has been, if I were you, I would always check opt out here. And as soon as this happened, as soon as this happened, both my wife and I were like, no, we both opted out. For all I know, all our doctors' offices still send everything there. Hopefully not.
They don't pay attention.
But in other states, I am quite certain are doing this same thing.
Sebastian, let's finish this segment on a sour note.
Finally, from ZDNet, Cloudflare reports almost 7% of internet traffic is malicious. I would have guessed that it was higher. Is that counting the comment sections of everything?
No, nor is
that's
it
pretty
counting
malicious
spam.
too. I see.
This is pure horrificness.
I think that about 98% of the internet is just...
No, you're thinking email.
Oh, well, that's 99.9% of all
99.9% of email is actually either malicious or you don't want it.
It's endless scrolling through the spam folder if I'm ever trying to find something in there.
But, we just won't.
Yeah.
That's because...
So, I mean, the scale, as illustrated by the article here, is staggering, and that DDoS attacks making up over 37% of traffic that's actually mitigated. In 2024 alone, Cloudflare has blocked 4.5 million unique DDoS attacks. That's distributed denial of service. That doesn't mean that 4.5 million means that, there's very large botnets that make up that number. No, that's 4.5 million unique instances of a DDoS attack, potentially made up of equally large botnets each time. That's why you need to patch your damn camera and your light switch and your thermostat and your refrigerator. Oh wait, they don't patch those. All
right, well, moving on to a couple of quick hits. Multiplayer FPS over the top. World War I is well named. What is this called? World War I over the top, I think. It's a very odd
over the top
title. So over the top World War I is the actual name of the game.
Because there were trench warfare going on and you had to go over the top to fight. But the other reason it's over the top is that the maps will hold up to 200 players. This hasn't been done in a long time. We've slowly been watching even Battlefield reduce the number of active players and reduce the active number of classes. And hey, World War I is maybe not the most fun World War to participate in. Actually, I don't think any of them are, but at least as far as gaming goes, you do get a lot of flamethrowers, though, because that wasn't quite as frowned upon back then as it is now. But it's sort of the 200 players, 100 each side, and the engineers are able to build protective barriers and dig trenches, which suggests that at least the terrain is a little deformable and not just in set pieces, like sort of Battlefield's been going lately, where, yes, certain parts are destructible, other parts are not. So it does sound like they're going to go a little bit over the top, and we tried this back in the 90s and the 2000s, and it led to some horribly buggy games that would have been great to play if they worked, but they didn't. And so that's why we don't have Soldner anymore. Although apparently when I was looking up, because I was trying to remember the name of that game, someone is trying to remake it. Yes, they had deformable terrain, but if you touched that terrain that was deformed, you just instantly died because it didn't do good collision detection. So we'll see. It's not released yet. It's not even got a release date. But if you're curious, there is a button on Steam to apply to become part of the pre-testing. And that could be entertaining. The other fun thing is that all the maps are completely designable from the ground up. So you can create your own. It'll be interesting to see if this works out or if it's just going to tank.
Xbox Wire reporting, Microsoft directly reporting July 17. The Deadpool designed cheeky Xbox controller, which has to be seen to be understood. The back of the controller, looks like a derriere. So
not a
I'm sorry, what?
derriere.
No,
I'm sorry, what?
The derriere.
The derriere.
Yeah, but
I
have
understand. Ryan Reynolds went through molding to make
sure, yes.
make that accurate.
It looks like it's
Raise
scaled
the
down
posterior.
from an actual buttocks. But
Hey,
yeah,
he's a grower, not a shower.
Deadpool, designed this controller just for you. And I don't see a link to buy it. I don't know if they're just doing a giveaway.
No, it's a giveaway. They're doing a bunch of them and they're giving them away. But see, I'm from Vancouver, so I got Ryan Reynolds at home.
I mean, I can see there's going to be fights over the butt-shaped controller.
It's
Cheeky.
everything you would expect
cheeky.
it to be
it
from a
is
Deadpool
very,
tie-in. Actually,
all
less.
of it
I would
is
expect it to be even more raunchy.
Deadpool
What's around front?
dressed.
What are the joysticks designed to look like? You know what I mean?
Hush you.
You know, they don't. That picture didn't turn it around, but
Yeah.
there's an entire kit that comes with this. That's an Xbox system. It's a pair of controllers, and it supports the Wolverine Deadpool tie-in movies.
I see.
So,
All right.
done. Go
Yeah.
go
Hey,
enter the
Movie
contest.
that's going to
Moving on.
save Hollywood.
Yes. Okay.
Yes.
It's time for
uncomfortable
picks.
texture.
It's time for picks of the week. And we are going to go with Jeremy first because Josh is not here.
All right, well, I almost had nothing, but then I saw what Brett picked. And I realized that while I was digging around on Humble Bundle today for the gaming post and the bundles there were two bundles that I actually have picked up. One which people should know about because The Boys is not an Amazon show. It was a series of comic books that had a very important dog in it named Killer, but we won't mention that because the series doesn't have it. If you're curious about where this came from and want slightly better writing, it's cheap and you can get the entire series. So you can tell your friends what's going to happen in the future, kind of, because it doesn't necessarily stick entirely to the plot. And at the same time, they're throwing up Cerebus, the entire bloody series by Dave Sim for very, very cheap.
You know how much these cost physically to buy these compilations?
I know.
Getting this for $18 is a steal.
Yes.
So if you don't know Cerebus, it is worth at least looking at. And if you remember Cerebus, that was so bloody long ago, you don't actually remember it, and it's kind of fun to reread. And you probably gave up at least some part through it where he got a little bit weird, but hey, for this amount of money, it is worth checking out two iconic comic book series. It's interesting. Give it a shot. Won't cost you much.
Without Cerebus, we wouldn't have had Mirage Comics. We wouldn't have had the original gritty TMNT. Dave Sim is a legend in that sort of indie comic community. All right, Brett, is this you?
A couple things.
Leave out Ennis.
Yeah.
No,
Brett.
I won't leave him
Couple things going on with this one. One, this is one I enjoyed a long time ago, and I sort of forgot about it for a while, but I'm like, oh, you know what? I'm going to look through the TV offers on Prime sale this Prime Day. And oh my gosh, Samurai Jack, the complete series, all 5 seasons is in here. Unfortunately, the price is now back up to $44.99. During Prime, it was $29. I'm wondering if maybe you're still
I think it's Aku's fault.
It is clearly Aku's fault. If you're still in a place where you can take advantage of this for the next 90 seconds, go ahead and grab the 5 seasons of Samurai Jack. I called it Bombastic Sublimity. It is a show that does so many things well. Even the the Tartikoff design and drawings and artwork and sometimes it's the lack of language. It's just sounds. It's just a wonderful experience to watch the show. I know I'm waxing poetically about what seems like a simplistic cartoon, but you should go check it out. Just watch a few shows and you may get a feel for
it. Gorgeous.
It is bombastically sublime.
No, the white black one, where he's going just between pure white and pure black, fighting essentially a clone of himself. It's just unbelievable.
Yeah. The metaphors are deep, and the messages are just layered, many layers.
Ooh, Loco, yeah. Kent?
Yeah, Kent, your pick.
So, a lot of longer time viewers know that I've become very fond of 99% keyboards because I use a number pad and can't do without it. This is a very good deal on a custom EPO maker, 99%, full number pad. This keyboard's got 5 layers of padding, 3 different switches you can choose from, 3 different colorways, fully wireless. You can use it Bluetooth, 2.4 gigahertz, or USB-C for charging, or direct if you want. Hot swap keys. Right now, it's $66.39. Still going on, and it's a very nice keyboard.
All right. Well, I think that's going to do it for this week's episode of the PC Perspective Podcast. We want to thank our audience, if you're listening or watching. Then
even if you're not.
Yeah, even if you're not. Even if you're overhearing this from a nearby car and you wonder, who are those extremely intelligent and attractive sounding individuals? Well, it's the PC Perspective Podcast. And you should visit us at PCPer.com and read those companion stories to the talking that you're hearing. And read Kent's review.
You're going to have to come to this space because you won't find our insightful opinions in any AI. You won't.
No, because they're not harvesting us for some reason. Nope. I don't know why they're not data mining our podcast.
Nope.
Oh well.
I looked.
That's fine.
Oh, they'll scan across those spreadsheets in my article and they'll start mining.
All right. Well, please join us again. Please rejoin us next week again. Also, too, and we'll do it again just for you.
Except me. I'll be on.
Thank you, everyone.
Jeremy won't be here next week.
Oh, really?
Yep.
Unacceptable.
Well,
or
unless I phone in from Lac Marois.
That's right.
Will you be on a boat?